What I'm going to present to you today is a new project of ours called Golden Years. As I say, focuses on people 65 and above in the hospitality industry. So let's put a little bit of context behind why we think this particular age group should be taken more care of and certainly listened to a little bit more. So the Golden Years population, so again, that's 65 plus, is growing. In 1991, it was 9.1 million and 16% of the UK population. 2016, that rose to 11.8 or 18% of the UK population. But importantly, in 2066, we are looking at 20.4 million. That's 26% of the UK population. Also, another good point is, this is talking about the age of 65 plus. But by 2066, there will also be 5.1 million people over the age of 85. So this is a demographic that is growing, and this is a demographic that we need to start listening to, as they are a potential pool of customers for a long time to come. I think we can get a little bit caught up talking about the sort of sexy side of millennials and Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, when actually these people are the ones with the cash. In contrast, the population aged 16 to 64 years is only projected to increase by 2% to 2026. So that gives you a rough idea of the amount of people that we are likely to have in this demographic. Let's talk about spending power, because those age 65 plus, their spending has increased by 75% between 2001 and 2018. By contrast, spending by those under the age of 50 has actually fallen 16%. That is a massive gap. So it's a growing population and it's a growing spend that's available to us. By 2040, the 65 plus will be spending 63p in every pound in the UK economy. But there is a little bit of bad news. So they're a great opportunity, but they also eat out less frequently. So you can see here, this is Golden Years, this is Gen Z, Millennials, Gen X, and that is how many times they eat out per month. Now, they eat out less because, and you'll see as I go on in this presentation, what they actually do is they treat hospitality more as a treat than a habit. And that's where we are in danger of losing them. We're in danger of losing them for those habitual visits that possibly the younger generations use hospitality for more. And then even worse news is that we are losing them pretty fast. So if we look at a decline in visit frequency to pubs, bars and restaurants on a monthly basis, we're looking for this age group, 65 plus, 26% decline. We're still looking at a 20% decline across the industry. So that's a worry for a start. But that 26% is a lot. And just to let you know, it's not that they are not going out, it's that they are using other industries to spend that leisure pound. So we need to show them a little bit of love. And we do, because, you know, we talk a lot about being inclusive as an industry, but actually, are we really being inclusive if we are putting barriers in the ways of the older generation? So 1 in 10 of the people we spoke to told us they had difficulty reading a menu. I recently held some focus groups through a pub company, and we actually looked at fonts on menus, and we had a couple of older people in the focus group, and they just immediately said, no, I wouldn't come back here because it's a struggle for me to read the menu. 1 in 10 felt too old for the atmosphere. Now, that might not be solvable in everywhere, but I do have some ideas coming later of that. And then 29% thought the music was too loud, but I think the music is too loud in a lot of places, so there we go. What is the opportunity if we get it right? It's £2 billion. So this is now as well. This is not the future Golden Years generation that's coming in. This is the opportunity if we make the people that are already in that generation just a little bit happier, and we've worked that out. Oh, this fabulous. It's all go, isn't it, today? Okay. I'll just wait for the horn player just to go past. God, I live with a saxophonist. The last thing I need is more bloody musical instruments when I'm trying to work. Right, okay, so where was I? 2 billion in this age group. Now that is worked out with the idea that we would... Oh my God, this is so great. This is brilliant. This is my best day at work ever. Right, and that is if we keep them a little bit happier, if we get one additional visit per month and we spend an increase of £10 per month on the trip. If we manage to do that, then that is what this is worth to the industry. Now, I'm gonna try and play you a video. So these are some of the people that we spoke to as part of the Golden Years. I've got to take time to compose myself.
Things are not very much different. I always enjoyed eating good
Can you actually
food
hear that?
enjoyed eating out. I tend to prefer good quality food, fresh food, vegetarian, so that makes a difference to where I go.
The places that I like to go now usually have to have either drink and food that I want, obviously, and that would be things like real ales. And in terms of food, it's where we can get a table big enough or small enough for the group that we're eating with.
I tend to eat better food and spend more money than we did. I enjoy going out for special meals in nice restaurants with good chefs. And also I tend to eat out more at lunchtime now than when I was older, which was always in the evening.
I think I'm much more sensitive to the overall environment. I don't like smoky, noisy environments. I like places to be spacious and clean and accessible.
I drink less but better.
I promise you, she is over 65.
20s, it was all about going out with a gang of mates and getting sloshed as quickly as possible. Usually tend to drink with food these days rather than just going out to drink.
Well, I certainly drink a lot less, especially beer. It's usually wine these days when we're having a meal. And even if we're just out drinking, it will probably be a lot less beer than we used to.
So you're going to see those people pop up a bit over the next sort of 20, 25 minutes because they are people that we interviewed as part of this project just to get a little bit more in-depth insight into what they were looking for. And the glamorous granny second from the end is fantastic. And alongside these slides for this presentation, I can give you her skincare routine if you're interested. So do come and find me later. Let's look at occasions. So what we're seeing is that hospitality occasions are much more, as I said at the beginning, event driven. It's much more about going out for a certain reason, have a reason to meet people, having a reason to go to a pub, bar or restaurant. And what you'll see is actually where the golden years are under indexing is the more so dinner out on a Friday night, breakfast, lunch, quick lunch, all of those are the opportunities for us to bring those people back into hospitality. But interestingly, what do they really over-index in? Leisurely lunch, dinner Sunday to Thursday. These are traditionally times of the week where we are struggling to attract people into pubs, bars and restaurants. If we made it more inclusive for the older generation, then we would have the opportunity to fill that space. We talk constantly about sweating the asset in hospitality. And if we're not making these people feel welcome at times when they would be putting money through our tills when we're normally quieter, then we're not doing enough. These are the at-risk occasions. So the question we asked here are you participating in any of these occasions more or less than you were 10 years ago? And these are the occasions that we are not attracting the older generation into. And do bear in mind, they are still doing all of these things, but they are not doing them in pubs and restaurants. They are going to cafes, they are going to coffee shops, they are going to leisure centres, they are going to cinemas that have restaurants attached to them. So it's not that they're not doing it, they're just not doing it in hospitality. And as I said, this is a real risk. So it's that hospitality becomes a treat, which is a real shame because actually the disposable income they've got, and of course we all know that, pubs and restaurants, they are part of the local community. They do help with people that perhaps don't live with other people. They, come down just to combat that loneliness. So we don't want it just to become a treat occasion, not just for our own mercenary cash situation, but actually because we want them to be in the habit of coming out and seeing people and enjoying themselves. So how do we influence where they go?
Well, it really comes down to value for money with me. I don't mind spending more if the occasion and the food and the ambience, the atmosphere warrant it.
I would say food quality is number one. I would rather go somewhere without children.
I think, like any age group, it's what the atmosphere is like and how clean and attractive it is. Obviously, you don't want it all quiet and I'm friendly, you've got a bit of a buzz. And accessibility, of course. I've sometimes gone to a really nice restaurant, thought, oh, I'd like to bring my friend here, and then realised that we used to go down a long flight of steps to the loo, and she couldn't manage that, so I wouldn't recommend taking her there. Because I've got a dodgy back, I really want comfortable, ergonomic seats. I don't want something that slopes back or is too squishy.
Where I would say I really spend quite a lot of time and money would be at local pubs that have a good pub garden, and really important for me, a really, really good play area. So if I'm out with granddaughter or grandchildren, we will stay a lot longer and spend a lot more money if there's stuff for the kids to do. And if I'm going out with girlfriends of my own age, we would be likely to find a wine bar with light snacks, small plates, but quiet.
So where do they look at when choosing a venue? You heard a lot of the interviewees there say that they like to eat locally, that value for money was important. Please do not confuse value for money with price. It's about, are they paying the right amount for the experience that they are going to have? We also know that clearly this generation over-indexes in these reasons for choosing a venue. Number one, to choose a local place. Number two, places I've been before. And number three, recommendations from friends and family. Clearly, this demographic is more likely to be sort of the creatures of habit. They use traditional methods of search and discovery. But do remember that as this generation goes on, and as you wonderful young-looking people in this audience move into that generation, that generation then starts to use the methods that we use right now. So if I'm using Facebook now, I'm not going to suddenly stop using it when I'm 65, unless, of course, it goes under. But, the fact is that we will be using the same methods as we are now if we're not willing to learn new technological advances. So it's really important that we are catering to these areas. But if we want to get them out of different places and out of local places, then I'll come on to exactly how we do that. What influenced their choice? As I said, prices. When they say prices, we know that what people really mean is value for money. Interestingly, even though this demographic have a much higher disposable income, what they don't have is the sort of, they've got a bit more of a war mentality of, I don't want to waste this money and I don't want to waste this food. And you'll see that later when we talk about portion size. This demographic finds it absolutely abhorrent, the idea of wasting food and wasting drinks. So therefore, they don't want to be put off by large portion sizes. What's on the food menu? This generation is actually a lot more experimental than you think. They have got quite a lot of vegetarians and flexitarians in there, not as much as maybe some of the younger generations, but certainly more than the millennials. I think there was a vegetarian guy on there that was talking, actually. Reviews from other customers matter. Word of mouth is still king for these people. So it's really important that we get all that right. Now, one of the pushbacks that I have whenever I speak about this generation is, yeah, but what they want is so different, we just can't actually provide that. Not true. Categorically not true. So if you look here, we asked them to rate their ideal venue style. So from empty to packed, dark to bright, etc. Now, they are in blue. So you will see that yellow is the combination of the other demographics. So actually, it really isn't a million miles away. You've got 5.3 to 5.8, 6 to 6.3. It really isn't a totally different atmosphere that they're looking for. It's tweaks. It's to make sure that it is just more friendly for them. Your biggest gap is here, which is from quiet to loud. And then obviously you've got a gap with seated as well. So, they want it to be quiet. They want it to be comfortable. I keep saying it, they're thinking about old people, think about their ears and their asses, because that is what they are mainly concerned with. And then when we look specifically at food, so what would actually influence their choice of food? A menu that changes frequently was quite a surprise to me. I thought that they would be much more about that sort of, that ongoing traditional food. But actually, their idea is that if they are going out to eat, they want to have something different every time. If you're 65 plus, you've been cooking for yourself for the last 45 years, 50 years, you probably want something different. Otherwise, you'd stay at home. So they're actually quite adventurous when it comes to what is on the menu. Local sourcing is really important to this generation as well. I think that's incredibly important to to understand that, you know, they do have these smaller lives. They do have to, that sort of locality really matters to them. So it matters to them that their food is not being flown in from various different places all over the world, if not necessary. Seasonality is another thing, and it's, oh yes. Seasonality is another area that is important to them. Okay, let's move on from this slide.
I'm probably eating similar things as to when I was younger, but now I prefer to use local restaurants and local pubs where they tend to serve local food.
She looks like she's on a yacht.
Rather than a chain restaurant or a pub.
Nowadays, I definitely prefer places which use fresh local ingredients, and I'm not particularly attracted to places which offer sort of huge portions. Quality rather than quantity is important to me.
I eat better quality food now, and I eat less fatty food. I'm careful with make sure I eat lots of veggies and fruit.
It would be nice just if sometimes there were smaller portions so that people didn't have an enormous plate and have to pay for it all.
Smaller amount of food, but it's really good. I hate overloaded plates where you then feel a pressure that you've got to eat it, where it looks like you're being wasteful.
So a large portion, I feel like I've got to eat it, and that can sometimes be a bit off-putting.
Right, I don't dare move because if I stand like this, it seems to work. So I'll do that. How do we keep them coming back for more? They are incredibly loyal once they get into into one of our venues. They like to return visit as long as there are enough changes going on within the food menu and in the atmosphere and the events, etc. It can be incredibly loyal. So let's see what our interviewees have to say about,
Improvements that could be put in place would be good deals. A really good pub restaurant that we frequent, they offer a deal at lunchtime, and we go there quite often when there's something to celebrate.
Things that attract me to a restaurant or a bar are usually the personal service that's given rather than dealing with a machine or dealing with an iPad or whatever. What I want to see is actually the person giving me the service, giving me the menu, taking my order, and making it easy for us to have a good evening.
I would say to separate tables a bit so that older people get more area around the table, especially with my hearing, which is a problem. I don't hear well if there's a lot of background noise.
I also like to have music playing when I'm dining. I think it really adds to the atmosphere. However, I don't like it when the music's so loud that you can't hold a conversation.
It's really helpful if when they bring it along, they put food down in front of me and they'd say, "There is your gluten-free fish and chips." Because otherwise you always have to feel like you have to say, "That's definitely gluten-free, is it?" And then they look at you and say, "Well, of course it is. That's what you asked for." But unless you're reassured, some places have a flag they've stuck in which says gluten-free, so that's quite a good idea.
So you'll see there that there are ways to make this generation happy. And I think, just to pause on something like portion control, obviously that's not just good for them, that's good for margins as well. My 93-year-old grandmother, who I took out for lunch on Saturday, always tells me she doesn't have a very big appetite. She seems to have quite a big appetite when I'm paying. But if I'm not, then apparently she'll just have a little starter. 3 courses, though, if it's on my bill. So these are the factors that will have the most impact on attracting and retaining this incredibly valuable demographic. So promotions and special offers, remember that goes back to value for money, not to price. Customer service, personal service, and good customer service is incredibly important to this demographic. And comfort of seating. So it's like they're playing a game with me now. Comfort of seating. So can we make things more comfortable for them? Can we make sure there are spaces in between the table, that the chairs are comfortable, that they don't have to squeeze through areas to get into where they want to sit and eat? accessibility, same sort of thing. And then this choice of healthy food options, healthy, exciting, different from what I'm going to cook at home. So what's most likely to turn them off? We saw this earlier on in the presentation. Loud music, uncomfortable seating. Remember, ears and arse, ears and arse. And then, how should we stay in touch with the golden years? Number one is actually emails, which I found surprising because I thought it would be far more about letters through doors or local newspapers, but actually no, they are tech savvy. And I can promise you that they are because the aforementioned 93-year-old grandmother uses me as Apple support for her iPad, which I love. So emails. I can email her, you can email the older demographic. Social is less relevant, but it's not irrelevant. So they do still have access to quite a lot of social. So the key takeaways, other than I'm never doing a presentation again without checking the screen, is our population is aging incredibly fast, and we are losing golden years customers over time. When I say we're losing them, I don't mean because they're dying. I mean because they are not really going into our industry as much as we would like them to. Visiting venues in hospitality has become a bit of a treat. We need to get them back to that idea of it being a habitual thing to do, to visit pubs, bars and restaurants. There is a £2 billion opportunity right now. Quality and sourcing of food really matters. Comfort and accessibility, critical. Think inclusively at every touch point. Like I say, we like to say that we are becoming a very inclusive industry. If we are not making it easy for the older generation to join us at the table, then we aren't. And just because you're old doesn't mean that you are old school. So we do have these flexitarian diets. They're premiumization. They still love a bit of atmosphere. Health plays a little bit of a role, but not much. It's more about treat. Our customer pool is going to look very different in the next decade, and we need to get on board with it. That is a QR code to get, I think, takes you to how you can get hold of this report. And my email address is Katy, Katy, @cam-media.co.uk.